Hello everyone and welcome to the Introduction to Economics video. My name is Nick Berger. I'm the manager of Business World IT and Database here at Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. Today I'm going to be giving you a brief introduction into the definition of economics, explaining the difference between micro and macroeconomics, going over the overall economic problem, digging into scarcity and opportunity cost, as well as supply and demand. So let's start with the definition. By definition, economics is a social science. So I'm going to stop there. So what that means, it's a study of people, how they react, and how they make decisions. Economics is concerned with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Microeconomics, as you can imagine, focuses on individual firms and markets, while macroeconomics focuses on the economy as a whole. So the number one question is, how do societies use limited resources to produce valuable products and distribute them among different groups of people? The economic problem. The number one problem in economics is scarcity. There are unlimited wants and needs in the world, but there are only a limited number of resources. So the problem we are trying to solve is, how do we distribute those resources efficiently and reach full potential? Opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost is what you gave up for making a choice or purchase. So let's take, for example, going to a four-year college. The benefit, when you get done with your 4 years, you earned a 4-year college degree. The opportunity cost of what you missed, however, is earning money from a job, maybe spending time with friends. Your head's in the book, so you don't get to spend as much time with friends. Gaining job experience. During those 4 years, you might not be working. And you also spent $40,000 for that education, right? So you're foregoing your earnings while spending money at the same time. So that's a brief explanation of opportunity cost. So how is the price for a good or service determined? That is determined by a combination of supply and demand. So there's two sides to an economic equation. First, the supply. How much is made available by companies or producers? And then the second side is the demand. How much is demanded by the consumer, us, people going out and spending our money in the economy? So how does demand work? The basic rule is, if the price of a good goes up, the demand will go down. As things become more expensive, people don't want to spend money on it. The opportunity cost isn't there. They'd rather spend their money somewhere else. On the flip side of the coin, if the price goes down, the demand will go up. You can get more value out of your dollar, so you're willing to spend that money. How can we show demand on a graph? So on the x-axis, you have quantity. So let's say the quantity is 0. The price people would be willing to pay would be 10 because there's none available. So as quantity goes up, price goes down. It's an inverse slope. So quantity of 10 people, the price would be 0. And somewhere in the middle, if the quantity was 4, the price would be 6. And you can see that outlined on the graph. So you'll be given this information, the price and the quantity, which is determined by consumers, and then you can then outline your demand curve on a graph. The law of supply. The law of supply refers to the relationship between price and the quantity of a good or service that firms are willing to produce. So the higher the price of a product, that leads firms to supply more of it because there's more profit available in that industry. So, law of supply. Price goes up, the supply goes up. Price goes down, supply goes down. If the price is too cheap, the competition between the firms, certain firms will fall off. They can't make it for cheap enough to earn a profit. So that eliminates firms and eliminates the supply. So how can we show supply on a graph? So this is the same way. You will get the price and quantity on the x and y axis. You will take your data that you are given. So we see that if the quantity produced is 10, the price will be 10 because more firms enter the market and are willing to compete for that higher price. If you produce 2 of a good, then the price would then be 2 as well, which you can observe here on the graph. So now, how do we put supply and demand together to find market equilibrium? Market equilibrium is the point where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. So You graph both your lines now on the same graph observed here, and where they intersect is your market equilibrium. This is the price that consumers are willing to pay and producers are willing to make for everyone to achieve the perfect price point. So that is where a free market will produce, is at market equilibrium. So now how does demand change? One way demand changes is complementary goods. So let's take, for example, peanut butter. Peanut butter is often used with jelly. So if the demand for peanut butter increases, then the demand for jelly will also increase. For example, if a study came out that showed that eating peanut butter every day helped reduce your chances of getting heart disease by 50%, people would be a lot more willing to buy and consume peanut butter, driving the demand up, in return also driving up the demand for jelly. And the inverse is also true. If something came out that jelly was bad for you in a certain way, it would drop the demand, and then the demand of peanut butter would also drop along with jelly. Another way that demand can change is a substitute good. So substitute good is a good that can take the place of or be replaced by another good. So for example, if we look at 7-Up and Sprite, very similar sodas, if the price of 7-Up goes up, people will stop buying 7-Up and return to drinking more Sprite. Thus, the demand for 7-Up goes down, and the demand for Sprite will go up. So let's take a look at the graph. An increase in demand with no change in supply. What does that look like on the graph? So we can see that at market equilibrium, the quantity produced is 300 for the first demand at a price of $1.20. And if we slide the demand to the right, which is an increase in demand, you'll see the price goes up as well as the quantities produced. Firms are more willing to produce as the price is higher. More firms enter the market, driving up the demand, following the drive up of demand, and the price will follow. So an increase in supply with no change in demand. So if we look at the first supply arrow, market equilibrium is at $30 for 3,000 units. An increase in supply will shift the supply curve out to the right, which will then lower the price, but increase the amount of quantity produced. Thanks for watching, guys. For more information, please feel free to check out our website, wibusinessworld.org. We'll be releasing more videos on an array of other topics, including some deeper dives into economics. I hope you enjoyed this introduction, and thanks for watching.